So I finished off introduction already, so let's go to basic maneuvers in the Cabri G2. Got a little taste of this thing while I tried the World Photographer feature of the game, and it was quite chaotic, but again, jumped into it without any training whatsoever, so we'll give it a fair run with some training here and then go back to it again. It says it's a 6-minute training. Practicing straight and level flight. Make a couple turns following the bends of the river. Use the Cyclic's trim and experience a hover. I guess you could hover out of ground effect.
Here we are, flying along the Grezivon Valley in the French Alps. Look around while I am piloting. On your left-hand side, you can see the Belladon mountain range. And on your right-hand side, there are the Chartreuse Mountains. Beautiful, aren't they? On the count of 3, I will give you control of the helicopter. Prepare to slightly push Cyclic forward to maintain the correct attitude. 3, 2, 1, it's yours now. Using the Cyclic, keep the helicopter in a straight and level flight along the Isar River you can see below. I will take care of the collective control and maintaining the altitude, so you can focus on our speed and ground track. Reach cruise speed of 80 knots. Push the Cyclic to speed up, or pull the Cyclic to slow down. Now try to maintain 80 knots through all maneuvers. To maintain the same speed, try to remember the position of the horizon line and maintain it visually in the same place. That will make sure you are flying with the same speed. Keep flying straight until the river begins curving to the right. See how you always need to keep the Cyclic deflected to maintain the same attitude? After you've found a proper Cyclic position, use the Cyclic's trim to release static forces.
When I trim it out here, I'm not sure which way it wants me to go. I'm going right button, right stick down, which is decreasing the trim level. But I've murdered my airspeed comparatively to what it wants. Bring it back to 80, all right.
try some turns now. You see the river is turning right? Try to fly above the river and turn right together with its curve. Now make a sharp left turn following the river line. But this time try to make the turn coordinated. Don't forget to use pedals to avoid any slip and skid, just like in airplanes. Now you see how little pressure on the controls you need to control a helicopter. Let's do something you never do in airplanes. Let's bring our airspeed to 0 knots. Gently pull the Cyclic back until you reach 0 knots. This is called hovering out of ground effect. Feels interesting for airplane pilots, doesn't it? Keep the Cyclic back to maintain 0 knots airspeed. Now try to use your trim to move the neutral position of your Cyclic. You can trim the helicopter when you hover, when you climb, or when you are in cruise. This releases the forces on the stick and lets you better feel the controls. Nice. But just when you thought flying helicopters is all easy, I want to admit that currently I'm helping you stabilize our helicopter. You see, since we slowed down, the airflow over the tail is not enough to counteract the helicopter's rotating tendencies anymore. So I keep pushing the right pedal and adjusting our Cyclic a little to stabilize our flight. Let me show you what happens when I stop helping you. Okay, I am assisting you again. Don't let these rotating tendencies scare you. It is a fun challenge, and you will master it in no time during our next trainings. You were really good with maintaining the correct speed and making turns. See you in our hovering trainings.
Alright. Didn't really make those turns as it wanted me to. I think getting the trim dialed in on this is going to be a big difference. Yeah, the straight and level flight, 56%. Great. I'm going to retry that. I think if I can get the trim dialed in a little bit better, that should make that quite a bit easier.
Here we are, flying along the Grezivon Valley in the French Alps. Look around while I am piloting. On your left-hand side, you can see the Belladon mountain range. And on your right-hand side, there are the Chartreuse Mountains. Beautiful, aren't they? On the count of 3, I will give you control of the helicopter. Prepare to slightly push Cyclic forward to maintain the correct attitude. 3, 2, 1. It's yours now. Using the Cyclic, keep the helicopter in a straight and level flight along the Isar River you can see below. I will take care of the collective control and maintaining the altitude, so you can focus on our speed and ground track. Reach cruise speed of 80 knots. Push the Cyclic to speed up, or pull the Cyclic to slow down. Now try to maintain 80 knots through all maneuvers. To maintain the same speed, try to remember the position of the horizon line and maintain it visually in the same place. That will make sure you are flying with the same speed.
Alright, so far so good here. I think it's when it asked me
Keep
to
flying
follow the
straight
curve
until
of the river.
begins curving to the right.
think that's where I lost a few points because I didn't
See
turn
how
quite
you always
with it.
need to keep the cyclic deflected to maintain the same attitude? After you found a proper cyclic position, use the cyclic's trim to release static forces. Feels better now, right?
There we go, brought it back. So I don't have to be forward on the cyclic anymore. Just with it trimmed like that. A lot easier. Just on the hands by doing that. I see that's how this aircraft is going to fly. It's going to be a lot to do with its trim. But that's very interesting. Clearly, as he said, he's working on the collective and pedals and things like that for me, and altitude. But just seeing how the cyclic trim works, that's very cool. Takes a lot of load off.
Here we are. Let's try some turns now. You see the river is turning right? Try to fly above the river and turn right together with its curve.
Too aggressive? Probably too aggressive. Oh no, it gave me a green on that one. Okay.
Now make a sharp left turn following the river line. But this time try to make the turn coordinated. Don't forget to use pedals to avoid any slip and skid, just like in airplanes.
It's kicking me over to the left already. All right. Yeah. Oy, oy, oy. Oh, it gave me green on that one. I can't believe that.
Pressure on the controls you need to control a helicopter.
That was sloppy.
Let's do something you never do in airplanes. Let's bring our airspeed to 0 knots. Gently pull the cyclic back until you reach 0 knots. This is called hovering out of ground effect. Feels interesting for airplane pilots, doesn't it? Keep the cyclic back to maintain 0 knots airspeed. Now try to use your trim to move the neutral position of your cyclic. You can trim the helicopter when you hover, when you climb, or when you are in cruise. This releases the forces on the stick and lets you better feel the controls. Nice. But just when you thought flying helicopters is all easy, I want to admit that currently I'm helping you stabilize our helicopter. You see, since we slowed down, the airflow over the tail is not enough to counteract the helicopter's rotating tendencies anymore. So I keep pushing the right pedal and adjusting our cyclic a little to stabilize our flight. Let me show you what happens when I stop helping you. Okay, I'm assisting you again. Don't let these rotating tendencies scare you. It is a fun challenge, and you will master it in no time during our next trainings. You were really good with maintaining the correct speed and making turns. See you in our hovering trainings.
Alright, I think that went alright. My turning was, yeah, 96. I don't think so. That left turn especially was garbage. But I'll get the hang of it. Again, flying with the controller it's clearly taking some time to get used to. Alright, on to the next training. Collective, all right. So the overview, the collective lever is our key to vertical flight. In this training, you will practice taking off to a hover, changing hovering altitude, and landing from a hover. Your instructor will manage the pedals and cyclic while you focus on handling the aircraft, or handling the collective. This just brings me right back to initial flight training, where it was one at a time, and the instructor took over the other two, which is very cool to see that in this game as well.
Welcome to our first hovering lesson. To hover in ground effect means to maintain a constant position a few feet above the ground. It is not as easy as it sounds. In fact, hovering a helicopter is challenging, a bit like trying to pat your head and rub your stomach at the same time. A helicopter has 3 highly sensitive controls, but at first I will be giving you only one control at a time to handle. Your first control to master will be the collective lever. Remember, it is located on the left side of your seat. The collective controls your height above the ground. We will use it to take off to a hover. When you raise the collective control, the pitch angles of the main rotor blades increase. This increases lift, and the helicopter climbs. When you lower the collective, pitch angles decrease. This decreases lift, so the helicopter descends. Easy, right? Another thing we will need today is the EPM, which stands for Electronic Pilot Monitor. You might remember it from our previous lesson. Today you will learn monitoring power percentage with a multiple limit indicator. The most important thing to remember about power indications is to never go over 100%. You can read more about that subject in the briefing notes. Okay, enough lecturing. Time to fly. Before taking off, always check that all gauges are green and that we have enough fuel. As you can see, the tank is half full. This is more than enough for our training. Now look left and right to make sure we don't have people or vehicles approaching. All good, and we are clear to go. You have collective control now. Slowly raise it to the point where we become light on skids. This will be around 65% of available power. Be careful. First you won't see any reaction to your movement, but power will catch up soon.
Alright, so still just with the Xbox controller, and using the AB method here. Did I click something? I hope not. I just meant to look down there. No, it's okay. So yeah, you can see the collective slowly coming up with the AB. So it's, yeah, just click, click, click like that. And then B for down. But I'll go back to my neutral view here. Maybe down a little bit more so I can see some more of the ground. Slowly start bringing this thing up. So it's looking for 65% power. So each click of the A seems to be bringing it up 1% right now while we're sitting here. About 1%, not every... Yeah, I think so. So let me try it. So we're 51, so click. Yeah, it didn't... Oh, it did bring it to 52. Yeah, it just takes a moment, so... Well, to test that theory, I'll click it 3 times and see if we get to 55. 1, 2, 3. And 4. Ah, there. Okay, it settled at 55. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Now move the collective just a little more to get to 2 feet altitude hover. And don't mind us moving laterally. Today I will take care of that.
Okay, so just keep light tapping it. Alright, 65, and then I see a little bit of movement like he was mentioning. More taps up here.
are. Keep hovering at 2 feet now. You see, since we are hovering so low, the altimeter will be not useful. Judge your altitude just by looking outside. 2 feet is approximately 1/3 of the length of the Cadbury skid. Remember, the main trick of the hovering challenge is to move the controls as gently as possible. When you find a proper collective position, you don't need to keep adjusting it, given that we are not moving and there is no wind like today. Look around and memorize how 2 feet of altitude looks. Also,
We gotta
look at
keep
the
going
power
off the A and
indications
B, because
and
I'm
memorize
just...
the number. This is the amount of power required for hovering and ground effect, and it depends on lots of factors such as our weight and the weather. But you may find it useful to remember this number for our training today. Now let's see how
See,
little
it
you should
bounces in
increase
and out of
power
it
to hover at 8 feet altitude.
at 76,
Gently
anyway.
raise the collective just enough to get to 8 feet altitude and stop there.
What's this gonna be? Not enough. Well, it's gonna be bouncing around in ground effect. Give it a little more collective. There we go. It's gonna bounce though, I'm
Great.
assuming.
You are getting more and more confident with collective control. Keep hovering at 8 feet while I am talking. Look around and try to remember how 8 feet altitude looks like. It is an important altitude. You should avoid climbing higher when you hover in ground proximity. We will talk about it more in our later trainings, but for now, just remember, if your engine quits when you are higher than 8 feet and you don't have enough airspeed, you won't be able to land safely. So whenever you hover stationary in ground proximity or hover taxi, stay below 8 feet and you will be safe. Now let's go back to a 2-foot hover. Still remember which power indications to aim for?
I think about 76. Wonder if it's gonna...
There you are. I can see that now you understand sensitivity and inertia of the collective lever much better. Our last objective for this training session is landing from a hover. Remember to always stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude before touching the ground. Now, very gently lower the collective control until you find yourself firmly on the ground.
And just some light taps of B. And we're down. A couple more taps just to bring the power completely off. And there we go.
Congratulations. You just did your first landing from a hover. You mastered collective and hovering flight pretty well. Time to start mastering anti-torque pedals now.
Alright, I think that was pretty good. I'm wondering, like earlier on I saw that you can use the mouse for the collective. I wonder how easy that would be with the mouse and controller combo to be able to pull off, because like once the foot pedals come into play, then both hands have to be on the controller, so I don't know how you could run the collective off the mouse while having your hands on the controller with the cyclic and then the foot pedals. But I guess for now, just working with that fine touch of the AB with the collective is the way to go with that. So all right, well, it passed the collective training with an A, so on to the next. All right, next up, anti-torque pedals. Pedals control the direction where the nose of the aircraft points. Applying the pedal in a given direction changes the tail rotor thrust and makes the nose yaw in the direction of the applied pedal. In this training, you will learn to use pedals to make hovering turns and to counteract the torque-induced turning tendency.
Welcome to the second part of our hovering training series. This time you'll get familiar with anti-torque pedals. I will be helping you at first, but by the end of this training session, you will be in full control over our heading. Let's start with taking off to a hover. You already know how to do that. Before raising collective, always check that all gauges are green, we have enough fuel, and there are no obstacles nearby. All good. You have collective control now. Gently raise it, get light on the skids first, and only then take off to a 2-foot hover.
Getting up to that over 60 mark.
Here you go. It is nice to see you are getting more and more confident with collective control. Stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude.
So I'm on the Cyclic as well. I didn't expect that right away, but
Anti-torque pedals now. Look, they're located in the same position as the rudder pedals in airplanes. They also serve similar purpose, which is controlling the direction where the nose of the aircraft points. Only that in helicopters it happens due to increasing or reducing the thrust produced by the tail rotor. Try to gently apply pedals one after the other, and you will see how the nose yaws in the direction of the applied pedal. Easy, isn't it? Now try to turn toward the helicopter parking on your right-hand side. Apply the right pedal to start the turn, and the left one to stop at the required heading. Pretty good. When making pivoting turns, try to make one smooth movement, and then stop exactly at the desired heading. Now turn 90 degrees left, back to our original heading toward the runway and away from the hangars. Easy, right? Keep in mind that we use pedals to make turns like that only when hovering. We call it pedal turn. In cruise, we change the direction of flight using the cyclic stick, while pedals are used only for adjusting the side slip angle, like in airplanes. By the way, remember our briefing? There is a torque effect caused by our rotor rotating clockwise, and we use pedals to eliminate this rotating tendency. Until now, I was assisting you with the anti-torque control, so you would be able to try changing heading without additional stress of fighting the torque. It is time for you to have full pedal control. On the count of 3, I will stop assisting you with anti-torque. Remember, our rotor rotates clockwise, which means the torque effect will immediately turn our nose left. You will have to press the right pedal to counteract that torque. Ready? You'll be given full pedal control in 3, 2, 1, now. Try to maintain our original heading toward the runway. It is all a matter of finding a good position for the pedals which counteracts the torque.
just very, very fine touch on the right trigger. It's like I invented something less than a millimeter, I think, for the amount of difference of
Now let's turn 90
input there.
degrees left, toward the edge of the trees on the left-hand side. Yes, the helicopter will try to turn there itself, as soon as you ease your right pedal pressure. With small, gentle pedals movements, try to keep our nose heading toward the edge of the trees. We're getting better and better. Let's now slowly turn right all the way to the helicopter parking, which is behind our back now. Good. Now, let's turn 90 degrees left, back to our original heading toward the runway.
So I'm not putting in any left pedal whatsoever. I'm just holding the right and then just easing off of it to make that left turn, and then a little more back onto the right pedal just to stop
Now
that.
you know how to change and maintain heading with anti-torque pedals, as well as how to counteract the torque. I will now let you perform a little more advanced landing than last time. You will have control of both collective and pedals at the same time. First, fully stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. Carefully maintain your heading toward the runway. Always make sure you don't have any movement or yawing before you touch the ground. Now, gently lower the collective control until you find yourself firmly on the ground.
It's a little bit wonky. It's like, I think lower. As I lower the collective, it's less pedal.
Congratulations. You landed while having full control of pedals and collective. Way to go. Today, you mastered anti-torque pedals. See you in our next training session dedicated to cyclic control.
So you'll feel that when you get in there to do that, but as you lower the collective, you also have to decrease the amount of pedal that's going in there too. You saw I started to really, as I lowered the collective, you see like the helicopter, I started to really kind of bounce a little bit more back to the right because I couldn't just hold that same position. So I had to find that, less than 1 millimeter input again on the right trigger to be able to keep it back, keep it in the direction that I wanted to, but managed to make it work. Got another A. I'd like to get 100% across the board in some of these, but just be more training. All right, anti-torque pedals done. Let's move on to the next. It's cyclic training, 5 minutes. The cyclic stick is used to move laterally by moving the cyclic forward, backwards, right, or left. We tilt the main rotor disc in a chosen direction, and therefore move there. In this training, you'll practice forward and sideward hovering movements, as well as countering translating tendency by using cyclic. So in the 1, 2, 3 there, it shows the tail rotor produces left thrust. All right. And translating tendency, the tail rotor thrust causes drift to the left. So move the cyclic to the right to counteract the left drift. Okay.
Welcome to the third part of our hovering training series. In this training session, you will get familiar with cyclic control and you will learn to counteract translating tendency. Still remember this term from our briefing? Let's start with taking off to a hover. All gauges are green. We have enough fuel, no obstacles around. Let's go. Slowly raise the collective, get light on the skids, and take off to a 2-foot hover.
Alright, slowly coming up on the collective. Again, just the AB, it's so hard to get that feel for it.
Stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. Here we are. You probably realize that I am now helping you with anti-torque pedal control. This will help you to fully concentrate on the cyclic stick in this lesson. Look there, the cyclic stick is located between the pilot's legs and looks similar to a joystick or an airplane stick. By moving the cyclic forward, backward, right or left, we tilt the main rotor disc in a chosen direction and subsequently move there. We also use cyclic to counteract left drift caused by translating tendency. You don't feel the drift now because I'm helping you to fight it. I'll let you master hovering movements first before you face the drift. Now use pedals and turn the nose of the helicopter toward the helicopter parking on your right-hand side. Slowly ease the cyclic forward to get our helicopter moving. Establish a walking pace over the ground. The trick here is to move very slowly with the speed of a brisk walk.
He says maintain 2 to 8 feet. I
Gently
think
pull
I'm
the
closer
cyclic
to that
back
2 foot.
Stop above the center of the heli parking. Good. Don't let the cyclic go. Keep making tiny corrections to maintain position over the center of the parking. Now make a pedal turn 90 degrees left, pointing your nose toward the runway again. You will now make a sideward movement back to our original parking. Keep pointing the helicopter toward the runway, but look left in the direction you are taxiing. Remember to move at a walking pace. Nice. Now keep hovering over the center of the parking while I'm talking. Remember how I was helping you to fight the drift? On the count of 3, I will stop assisting you, and you will have full control of the cyclic. Be ready to experience a left tail rotor drift and apply cyclic accordingly to stay over this parking circle. Ready? Prepare to push the cyclic slightly to the right. 3, 2, 1. Your control. Remember, all inputs should be small and quick. You need to make frequent control inputs and corrections just to stay over one spot.
Alright, that's a bit of a... Yep, I remember this from the very first time I tried to hover. Okay. Trying to correct that is just ridiculous. I can't believe it's giving me a green marker for this right now. Holy. What a bunch of slop.
Not bad. This improves with practice, of course. Okay, time to land while having full control over cyclic. And collective, of course. Try to be as close to the center of our parking circle as you can. Don't worry if at first we will be a little outside of it. Stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. Make sure you don't have any movement before you touch the ground. It is very important because we can easily get dynamic rollover if we are not careful.
Okay, get back over there. Alright, it's just swinging me.
Now, Gently lower the collective control until you find
Absolutely
yourself firmly
not
on the
right now.
ground.
Absolutely not gonna do that right now. While I'm rocking and rolling like this. Okay. Holy. I wonder... Like, what? Am I missing something here? Like, did he say he was gonna do
This
some
landing was too hard for a helicopter.
other kind
Try
of
to be more gentle
controls?
next time. Let's try again. Prepare to have full cyclic control and push the cyclic slightly right.
Alright, we'll try that again.
Okay, time to land while having full control over cyclic.
Yeah, it just
And
goes...
collective, of course. Try to be as close to the center of our parking circle as you can. Don't worry if at first we'll be a little outside of it. Stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. Make sure you don't have any movement before you touch the ground. It is very important because we can easily get dynamic rollover if we are not careful.
Well, that didn't really work. I wonder if it's gonna let me pick this back up again. Try and get back up over there. This thing is so fast. Just the fine control on the controller. The fine movement on the controller is just so sensitive. It just throws it right away. I could probably adjust that in the settings somehow in here, but I did what he asked me to do, but I didn't do it with the steps. So the mission steps, I gotta make sure I'm maintain my position over it from a 2-foot hover and maintain my heading. I think I'm gonna have to come back to this one with a little bit of sensitivity adjustment to the controller, because that was a near impossible task to try to keep that thing stable there. It was just... Did I mess this up? Trying to... There. Just do the collective. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm coming back to this. This isn't gonna work. I need to adjust my sensitivities a bit because it's way too wild just with the way I have it dialed in. So let's see what we can do here. Can I do that from within here? Probably. Controller. Hardware settings. I think this... Okay, this is where I saw it before. So left stick, left and right. We'll see what we can do. I don't know if that's what I want. Do I want more sensitivity or less? Probably less. It's neutral. Okay, I'll leave that. Dead zone, I'll leave that alone. Extremity dead zone. I don't know what... These all are. So I'm just going to guess. So the sensitivity plus and minus. So I think that's either input left and right. So drop the sensitivity. Hopefully that'll help with that. And then let's go with the left the other direction. We'll try and do the same thing. Just drop these to half. And the triggers, we'll leave those for now, and the right sticks and stuff for now. Okay. So we'll try that. See if that, how much that's going to change things. I'm just ripping over. Okay. I don't really see the benefit of what I've changed here so far.
Now, gently lower the collective control until you find yourself firmly on the ground.
Get to where I want to be. Oh, not this again. Definitely putting the tail rotor into the hangar right now. Just the constant pressure on the Xbox stick is real hard. I don't know, I have to work on those sensitivities just to see, because I just keep getting this massive pendulum. I don't want that, clearly. Okay. What am I gonna do here to try and counteract that? I wonder if he's gonna let me go play around out there, if it's gonna get mad at me for going off of what we should be doing. Just trying to figure out the sensitivities. Settings, controller, hardware. Like, do I drop this even more? I don't know, but... Well... Give it a shot here, I guess. I'm gonna come back down closer, because obviously I'm not... This part of the training is not meant to be done way up here.
You're about to leave our training area. Fly back to our training parking area.
Alright.
We can't perform our training here. Try to stay closer to our training area next time. Let's try again. Prepare to have full cyclic control, and push the cyclic slightly right. Okay, time to land, while having full control over cyclic. And collective, of course. Try to be as close to the center of our parking circle as you can. Don't worry if at first we'll be a little outside of it.
A little?
Stabilize
Come
your
on,
rotor
man.
at 2 feet altitude. Make sure you don't have any movement before you touch the ground. It is very important because we can easily get dynamic rollover if we are not careful.
It's just this, once you get into the pendulum swing, it's just like so hard to get out of it. And it's getting used to the controller because it wants to kick back to center. So then just having that center kickback, and it's trying to figure out where it's gonna go. Yeah. Okay.
Now, gently lower the collective control until you find yourself firmly on the ground.
Ugh. This is brutal.
This landing was too hard for our helicopter.
Yeah, clearly just
Try
hit the
to be more
hangar.
gentle next time. Let's try again. Prepare to have full cyclic control and push the cyclic slightly right. Okay, time to land while having full control.
Just sends it
over
right away.
cyclic. And collective, of course. Try to be as close to the center of our parking circle as you can. Don't worry if at first we will be a little outside of it. Stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. Make sure you don't have any movement before you touch the ground. It is very important because we can easily get dynamic rollover if we are not careful. Now, gently lower the collective control until you find yourself firmly on the ground.
I just absolutely forced it in there.
Congratulations. You landed while having full control on cyclic and
It's
collective. Way to go.
definitely going to take some time to get used to
counteract translating tendency,
the
and
sensitivities
you are
of the
ready to
controller.
try hovering fully on your own now.
Yeah, I don't think so. That w- And that was a mess. Make a soft landing 54. Yeah, I just hammered it down, but yeah, the sensitivity of the cyclic. I'm not sure the best way to dial that in, like, because I want to be able to make nice, smooth input. So I think I adjusted those the right way. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to make some more adjustment on that because that is clearly still just sending this thing rocking around like a teeter-totter. Sure, as the training progresses, I'll have more opportunity to work on that kind of stuff, especially next when I think I'm going to get all 3 controls, so see how it goes with the sensitivity. Actually, I'm going to retry this one and work on the controller sensitivity because there's got to be a way to dial that in a little bit better.
Welcome to the third part of our hovering training series. In this training session, you will get familiar with cyclic control and you will learn to counteract translating tendency. Still remember this term from our briefing? Let's start with taking off to a hover. All gauges are green. We have enough fuel, no obstacles around. Let's go. Slowly raise the collective, get light on the skids, and take off to a 2-foot hover.
Let's make some adjustments here first. Controller. So reset these. So I think that was at 0.1. Okay, I'll leave that. So bring up the sensitivity. Is this the opposite of what I want to be doing? Oh my, we'll find out right away. Alright, we're going to see how that behaves. I'll bring up the collective.
Stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude.
So he still has control here, so I haven't fully felt this yet.
Here we are.
I think it's going to be way more punchy. Just I put a little bit of an input in.
Fully concentrate on the cyclic stick in this lesson. Look there. The cyclic stick is located between the pilot's legs and looks similar to a joystick or an airplane stick. By moving the cyclic forward, backward, right or left, we tilt the main rotor disc in a chosen direction and subsequently move there. We also use cyclic to counteract left drift caused by translating tendency. You don't feel the drift now because I'm helping you to fight it. I'll let you master hovering movements first before you face the drift. Now use pedals and turn the nose of the helicopter toward the helicopter parking on your right-hand side. Slowly ease the cyclic forward to get our helicopter moving. Establish a walking pace over the ground. The trick here is to move very slowly with the speed of a brisk walk. Gently pull the cyclic back to stop above the center of the heli parking. Good. Don't let the cyclic go. Keep making tiny corrections to maintain position over the center of the parking. Now make a pedal turn 90 degrees left, pointing your nose toward the runway again. You will now make a sideward movement back to our original parking. Keep pointing the helicopter toward the runway, but look left in the direction you are taxiing. Remember to move at a walking pace. Nice. Now keep hovering over the center of the parking while I'm talking. Remember how I was helping you to fight the drift? On the count of 3, I will stop assisting you, and you will have full control of the cyclic. Be ready to experience a left tail rotor drift and apply cyclic accordingly to stay over this parking circle. Ready? Prepare to push the cyclic slightly to the right. 3, 2, 1. Your control. Remember, all inputs should be small and quick. You need to make frequent control inputs and corrections just to stay over one spot.
Oh, here we go into this rocking and rolling again. Yeah, the sensitivity of this.
Not bad. This improves with practice, of course.
Not bad.
Okay, time to land while having full control over cyclic. And collective, of course. Try to be as close to the center of our parking circle as you can. Don't worry if at first we'll be a little outside of it. Stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. Make sure you don't have any movement before you touch the ground. It is very important because we can easily get dynamic rollover if we are not careful. Gently lower the collective control until you find yourself firmly on the ground. Congratulations! You landed while having full control on Cyclic and Collective. Way to go! You've learned to counteract translating tendency, and you are ready to try hovering fully on your own now.
I'm not sure if I had it dialed in any better. Like, I forced it on. It's just gonna take some time getting used to that, like figuring out what is gonna be the best setup for me to be able to keep that hover. Like, is that the sensitivity? Just a matter of time to get used to the overall movement of this thing. All right, well, that's the Cyclic. Let's move on to the next. So hovering is maintaining a constant height and heading over a given ground position. Hover taxi is moving to a specific location while being at a hover height. In this training session, you will combine the skills you learned with the Cyclic, Collective, and the pedals to hover the helicopter. Being gentle on the controls is the key to success. All three, this is going to be just with the sensitivity, this is going to be very interesting.
Welcome to our final hovering lesson, which will bring together Collective, Cyclic, and pedal skills you've learned before. It is challenging, but you will find it easier and easier with practice. I will assist you with torque and drift counteraction at first, but step by step you will have full control, and by the end of the training you will be hovering all on your own.
Are you sure about that?
Ready? All gauges are green, we have enough fuel, and we are clear to go. Using Collective, get light on the skids first, and then take off to a 2-foot hover. Use pedals to maintain a heading toward the runway, and Cyclic to keep us exactly above the center of our parking.
Just too much power. It's just like bouncing in the ground effect. Alright, bring that back. Okay, now don't bounce. Just stay there in the 2-foot. Now it's gonna bounce. Me on the Collective, just keeping it in there, just with some A, B, A, B, A, B.
Here you go. Remember how we were practicing pedal control and counteracting the torque? On the count of 3, I will stop applying right pedal and helping you to counteract the rotating tendency. Make sure to maintain the heading toward the runway by using pedals. 3, 2, 1, go. Pedal control is fully yours now. Just maintain the heading for a few seconds.
Very sensitive on the pedal control. At least it's giving me 2 to 8 feet right now, and not just a 2-foot hover.
Good. You work well with the torque effect. Now let's add the translating tendency. On the count of 3, I will stop applying right cyclic, and I will let you counteract the drift by yourself. Try to stay above our parking circle. And of course, don't forget to maintain the heading. 3, 2, 1, go. You have full control on the helicopter, and you are hovering all by yourself.
And there she goes. Okay. Full-on wild helicopter. Here we are.
Helicopters are generally dynamically unstable.
No
You
kidding.
should never stop making small corrections.
No kidding.
Use cyclic to move and eliminate drift in the horizontal plane. Use collective to maintain desired altitude. Use pedals to control nose direction or heading. The
This is
interaction of
chaos.
these
Just trying to
controls
keep
makes
the...
learning to hover
That wasn't a
difficult,
crash.
but so exciting.
Just full control of these things, man. Like, trying to keep pedal on this. My goodness. Just the overall
Do your best to keep
sensitivity.
your heading and to maintain your position over the parking area.
Oh yeah,
But
I'm
don't worry
over
if
the
you float
farming
your way
area,
too far
guy.
from it.
All right, I'm gonna have to come back to this because this 3 control thing with an Xbox controller is just ridiculous. I think you actually need
Oh,
real
don't forget to
controls
breathe.
because I'm not gonna be able to do this. So sorry for making you sick, but I'm gonna quit out of this until I get some real controls. That's quite the position. Yeah, just with the sensitivity of the controller and the desire for the pedals and the cyclic just to want to bounce back to the center it's just very, very difficult to fly with the controller. Like, over time, will it be something that I can improve on? Maybe with more work on it, but right now, just with this initial training, trying to get the thing stabilized, it's just not going to happen in this moment. I think with actual controls dedicated to each, the collective, the cyclic, and the foot pedals, I think that would make a massive, massive difference to controllability here. But with the Xbox controller, I don't know, is that the max? Or is it possible to dial that in? It's probably with the sensitivities of the controls that I can make that happen, but for right now, it's not really looking like it's going to work for me. So I'll leave it at that for now. Up to the hovering flight of the training. So thanks for watching and joining in on that. That was quite the adventure. I'll continue the training again and hope you enjoy flying with me. And yeah, we'll see you in the skies.